Hi, and welcome to today's vlog. Thanks so much for joining me. And before I dive into today's subject, I want to just say a little bit about yesterday's subject, which was, if you remember, if you watched it, parenting. And you might have thought to yourself, why on earth is he talking to us about parenting? And the answer to that is that I was asked to do so. So a reminder that if you have any particular subject you want me to address or any questions you have, please do let me know and I'll do my best to respond. Now, today's theme is, you might think, a rather strange one. I want to talk to you about a humble little flower. And it's a flower that many people see as a weed. And if they see it appearing in their garden, they get rid of it as quickly as possible. But it's a flower that I have a lot of time for. It's the humble dandelion. If you've ever been out in the countryside on a sunny day and seen a field where there are many dandelions, that orangey yellow colour, perhaps swaying in the wind with the sun reflecting off their beautiful petals, what an awesome sight that is. I quite like the dandelion, and I'm happy for some dandelions to grow in my garden. I don't see that's a great problem because I love the colours. And I understand that the dandelion actually potentially has some medicinal benefits. I'm sure if you look up on Google, you'll be able to read about those. And it's also apparently quite nutritious. Perhaps, in fact, there was that drink. I don't know if it's still around, dandelion and burdock, wasn't there? So there you go. Anyway, I don't particularly want to talk to you today about the flower itself. I want to talk to you about what comes after the flower. There you go. And that's called by some the Dandelion Clock. I just got this out of my garden this morning. I think it's called the clock because I remember when I was a child, and I don't know if children still do this, you blow it, don't you? And how many times it takes you to blow the seed heads off will apparently tell you the time. I don't think that was all that accurate, but it was a fun thing to do as a child. But I mentioned the dandelion clock because it reminds us how fantastic the dandelion is at reproducing itself. Because those seeds, when the wind blows them or people blow them, they fall onto the ground, and many will eventually germinate and produce new plants. One of Sue's favourite programmes of this current time is the 5 o'clock government briefing on coronavirus. She is glued to the television at that time. I can't watch anything else when that is on, not that I particularly want to. Indeed, I found it quite interesting at the beginning, but it seems that many of the questions that are asked are just repeating questions from previous times. It is an important subject. And one of the issues that was highlighted yesterday, not only in that briefing but in the news, was the fact that the scientists believe that the so-called R rate has increased slightly. The R rate is the average number of other people that somebody with COVID-19 is infecting. And the government are desperate to keep that R rate below 1, because once it gets above 1, that means the number of people in the country who are infected with COVID-19 is increasing. If it's below 1, they're decreasing. So they're desperate to keep it, naturally enough, below 1. And as I was thinking about that, I got to thinking about how we as church in this part of the world desperately need to get our R rate above 1. In many parts of the world, the church is growing at amazing rates. I hear that the fastest growing church is in Iran, which is hard to believe, isn't it? Because it's such a difficult thing to be a Christian in Iran. But lots of places around the world, the church is growing. The R rate is far above 1. But it seems that in our part of the world, Western Europe, the R rate is below 1, and the church, in lots of cases, is decreasing in numbers. Of course, there are vibrant, growing churches even in our country, but not all. And so, how do we increase the R rate? One of the great promises of Jesus that we love to hang on to is that promise at the end of Matthew's gospel where Jesus says, I will be with you always. Isn't that a fantastic thing to know, that he is with us always? The interesting thing, however, with that promise is that we often forget the context in which Jesus gives the promise. He's standing with the disciples. He's going to leave them soon. So he gives them what we call often the Great Commission. Let me read it to you. Jesus came to them and said, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples. So Jesus is giving them that commission to go and make disciples. In other words, help other people come to a saving knowledge of him. Introduce others to Jesus. Tell others about the gospel. By our lives and by our words, bear witness. In fact, just before Jesus went, he gave that other promise, didn't he? That the Holy Spirit would come upon them and they'd be filled with power and they would be his witnesses. In other words, we are called, if we are followers of Jesus, we are commanded to bear witness to the gospel, to tell others about Jesus, to spread the message like that dandelion clock that spreads itself and bears fruit. Jesus calls us to bear fruit, and one of the aspects of that is to help others on that journey to know him. So the context in which Jesus gives the promise, I will be with you always, is the commission, the command to go and make disciples, to go and spread the gospel. So though most of us, I guess, I'm included myself here, find it a bit scary to talk to others about Jesus, to share the gospel message, we do so in the knowledge that God is with us, that Jesus said, I will be with you always. I will give you my spirit to enable you to be witnesses. So we, as church in this part of the world, desperately need to get that R rate above 1. And I believe that we're in a great time to do that right now, because this coronavirus has reminded the whole world that we human beings, great as we think we are not the masters of our own destiny. There are some things that we can't handle very well. And many are thinking to themselves, is there a God? Is there a God who can help us, who can come into my life and help me in my situation? It seems that many, many more people are praying right now who perhaps wouldn't normally do it. So there's an openness to the things of God, an openness to spiritual things. So we're going to have opportunities as we talk with people to share our own experience of God, to help them on that journey to know him. There is no greater thing that we can do than to help someone on that journey to God, to share our faith. You might think, I'm not a great theologian, I don't know all that much about the Bible. But you can share your story. And by doing so, you sharing your experience of the love of God, of what Jesus means to you, you can bear witness, you can spread that good news. So I want to encourage you to step out in faith, even though it's scary. Remember, Jesus is with you. The Holy Spirit will equip you, give you the right words. So this is my challenge to you. Pray that today or in the next few days, God will give you opportunity to share your faith, to tell others about Jesus. So God bless you. Thank you so much for listening.